Hi, everybody. This is Drew Tomlin from the Association for Middle Level Education, and we are joined here today on this Google Hangout with an outstanding author. Her name is Melissa Dugan, and she's also the middle school dean of students and a language arts history teacher at Elgin Academy, in Elgin, Illinois. And like I said, just an outstanding author with a great article about flipping the social studies classroom. And a lot of us have heard about flipping the classroom, but I just really wanted to talk a little bit more about this article. So thanks for joining us this morning, Melissa.
Thank you so much, Drew. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. So start off with the first question is, why and when did you start flipping your classroom, and what inspired you to make that change?
Well, actually, my boss had come to me about 4 years ago. She had read this great book by the original authors, which is called Flip the Classroom. And at that point, I had been teaching social studies for about 20 years, so I was definitely ready to try something new and exciting. The second part of your question is an interesting one. How did this all start? To be honest, after I read the book, I was interested in the whole concept, and I started really slowly because I had already been doing PowerPoints for my students in the classroom. So my lectures were based off of PowerPoints. I thought it would be really cool to try it. I did try it, and the feedback from the students was they didn't see my face, and therefore they didn't like it. So I had to go back to the drawing board. The next year, I tried it again with my face. I had only completed a couple of the videos, and it was the students that begged me for more. This flip teaching was not something that I thought for 1 second I would be doing for all of my classes, but because the students wanted it, they left me no choice. So I had to get busy and start my library of flipping my classroom, and that's kind of how it all happened.
That's really nice. Well, and like, we often talk about students getting out of their comfort zone so they can learn something different. And I think that's something that you experienced yourself as an educator, getting into your discomfort zone and doing something different for your kids, And
Absolutely.
on the side, it's kind of a nice compliment that they want to see your face, during
I think it was the personality that they said they were missing. Well, as you know, 8th graders, they like to interact with their teacher. So that was the one component that they really wanted. Another component to that was I had one student that was not taking notes the way I was presenting them, because I always go around and look at the kids' notes. For her, and she's really one of the reasons why I decided I needed to do this, she was writing her notes in paragraph story form, because that's how she learned. So if I were to have a regular class with just a PowerPoint, the kids don't have enough time to write it the way they learn. That was really the key for me. So that's kind of what started it, and it's just snowballed since.
That's really great. So you talked about like how the students have benefited from it. How did you prepare the students and their families for the flipped classroom experience?
Because this was so student-driven, I didn't really have to prepare them. In essence, they were preparing me for the change. But as time went on, we have a small community, so word of mouth was a big proponent of this idea of flip teaching, and I really did only introduce it to the parents during parent night. As it turned out, some of the parents had seen my teaching and thought it was really cool to see me face to face because they'd only been seeing me via video. So that kind of came up during some parent nights. From my students that had siblings. Right. In the classroom.
Cool. Word of mouth is still a very useful tool. That's
Absolutely. Good. And I was charting data when I first started to see if this was actually helping some of the students. And I have to say, those students in my classroom that really struggled in the classroom, in a regular lecture-based classroom, I did see improvements and significant learning gains for the students that were watching the videos. And I did survey all my students. The biggest factor that they said why they liked it so much was A, they could learn at their own pace. They liked the fact that they could see the video any way they want. And most importantly, they were able to look at the video as many times as they needed to understand the material.
Right, right. Obviously, yeah. And so they can see it again and again and get the material the second, third time if they didn't get it the first time. That's an outstanding point. Um,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
So obviously, it sounds like the students gained and continue to gain quite a bit from this type of learning. What have you gained? What type of experience? What kind of learning have you gained from putting a flipped classroom on?
I think it's been a big challenge for me in terms of now that I no longer lecture in my class, how do I keep my students engaged? So every day, that's my challenge. What kind of activities am I going to come up with? Most importantly, what kind of current day connections can I make with what we're learning to what's happening today? Coming up with simulations, activities, small group work, all of those things. That is indeed the biggest challenge. At first, making the videos, I'm not going to lie, it takes a lot of time. So
Right.
that in itself is a little bit of a challenge. But once you get your library created, you're ready to rock and roll. And I was ill one day and I was all worried about my lesson plans. I didn't have to worry. Students went to the computer lab, plugged in, and they had my history lesson. So that's another component too to think about.
That is something great, and it's a good note for those who are maybe on the fence about how to get started. Like you said, there's a learning curve, and it takes some time. But once you get going on it and build your learning library, if you will, then it's you're ready to rock and roll, as you said.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So in terms of the support that teachers need to make this happen from an administrative point of view, what can school leaders do to support this kind of innovative practice from your perspective?
I think the most important thing administrators need to do is they need to encourage their faculty to go for it, to try it. They also need to help make it easy and accessible for all students. We have to accommodate our students. We have to keep in mind the students that may not have that technology at home. How
Right.
can we make sure that those kids can still see the video before they go to class? Maybe it's after school, maybe it's before school, maybe it's during a study hall. But I think together, the administrative team and the teachers can definitely work something out so we can touch all of our children.
That's a great point, right? And of course, it takes teacher leadership, as you've already said, to communicate to administrators that you have this need. Um,
Exactly.
if administrators aren't aware that you're flipping your classroom, then they're not necessarily aware that they need to supply different infrastructure and technology help. So that's a good point.
Yeah, as always, communication is key.
Exactly, exactly. So I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna take you on a metaphorical journey, Melissa, to keep the learning going. You ready for it? You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So if flipped classrooms were a food for middle level education, what kind of food would they be and why?
Well, I will have to go with my favorite food group, which is chocolate.
No.
So the flipped classroom to me is like a king size Milky Way chocolate bar.
Okay.
At first, the wrapper might be a bit of a challenge to open. Once you do open it and you bite into it, it will be nothing short of fantastic.
Oh my goodness, taking it from the wrapper level all the way down to the food. You went above and beyond. Goodness gracious, Melissa. That is a great choice. And a Milky Way is, of course, you're reaching for the stars if you're reaching for the Milky Way, right? So
Thank
well done. Well done. Well,
you.
cool. Well, thank you so much. Not only did you knock it out of the park with that food metaphor, but you knocked it out of the park with the article in this conversation. Thank you so much for giving us some time today.
Thank you so much, Drew. I hope all those teachers out there will try to do the flip teaching. They won't be disappointed.
There you go. And don't just try it just one time, but you got to keep on trying it, keep on doing it. Awesome.
Sure.
Awesome. And your email is at the bottom of this article, so they could probably reach out to you and get some extra tips and things like that if they want to for the road ahead.
I would encourage that and I would welcome it.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much again for the article and for the conversation. And thank you, AMLE readers, for checking out this article and this hangout here at AMLE, where we help you reach every student, grow professionally, and create great schools. Thanks again, Melissa.
Thanks, Drew. Take care.
All right, you too.